Hey everyone, I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to wake the world up to what's possible, one brave word at a time around here. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the most amazing authors of a new book that we have coming out called Inspired Living: Superpowers for Health, Love, and Business. And you guys, before I introduce you to these amazing authors I have here in my Zoom room, I want to say a big thank you to Carolyn McGee, our lead author of this project. Carolyn had a super mission for this book, a beautiful energy. Carolyn, you got together the most stellar group of author experts for this book, and I am loving the chapters and the practices and the stories and everything that they're sharing. So thank you, Carolyn. We would not be here without you. All right, without further ado, let me tell you a little bit about who I have here. Reverend Joy Resor is the CEO of Joy on Your Shoulders, where she inspires love, peace, and joy through her being, how she serves others, and through writing that flows through her heart and hands. Renee Moritz, I'm going to get that right, is a shaman, medical intuitive, energy medicine practitioner, and animal communicator. Dawn Simpson helps her clients connect to their soul's path, bringing guidance for healing, clarity, and continuing forward progress in daily life. And Terry Hawk recently retired from 21 years working for a local government agency. She's a lifelong student of nature and intuitive, and is now pursuing a career in healing animals and humans, helping people connect to the natural world, and also as an author. Of course you are. So, okay, Joy, you're going to start this party off. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
Oh gosh, thank you, Laura. Hello, everyone. I am Joy Resor of Joy on Your Shoulders, and I wrote chapter 19 in this beautiful book, The Depth and Breadth of Love, an Unexpected Journey. And it was really unexpected for me, all that I've learned about love. And what I have done is offered you a view into my experiences, enabling you to maybe find a gem or two in this chapter. You might learn, oh, if I'm living a pattern that's not working, maybe I can switch it up. If I am divorced, I can't believe I'll never, ever, ever find love. I need to learn how to love myself more, because the more we love who we are, we attract a guy or a woman who loves themselves. And I am now in the most amazing relationship. But my start, I write about a little bit about my start, because it was all long distance love. Me writing letters to an uncle that I never even maybe met. Maybe he saw me once. Because my mother was from New York and my father was from Wisconsin, and these two dear souls settled in Ohio. So there I was, raised in a family that really, I was a latchkey child. Mom wasn't home when I came home. I mean, my experiences with love as a kid were not big, enveloping love. But I just am a testimony to, no matter how you grow up, you can heal into more love. And you will have your own experiences with love. And I wish you the best.
How you talk about love. I have really enjoyed, and Joy, thank you for being back, because you've been in several of our collaborations and you so very generously talk about love, but you also offer a window into your world and how you're navigating it in your relationships. Your poetry, I love, and the way that you give us the window into your mind. For all of you too, I think it's always a gift when you let us in here, because then we don't feel so alone. But Joy, the biggest thing for me with your writing was like, oh, whoa, she's laying that out for us about her relationship. Like, that's brave. Did you have to feel brave to write it or not?
Wow, your words give me goosebumps, Laura. I think what I was, right? My words come through. I didn't like outline it, I didn't plan it, but I think unconsciously and maybe a little subconsciously, I was aware I wanted to give something really valuable to the readers. And we had just moved. In fact, when Carolyn invited me to write for this book, I had already said to myself, I'm not going to do anything first quarter because I am moving up the street first quarter. But when Carolyn told me the title of this book, I got full body bumps. It was like, I have to write for this book. So I have grown so much from not feeling loved and always seeking attention to giving love, giving peace and joy to everyone I serve. So I don't know if I answered your question.
No, it's awesome. You're also making me think, when we be it and give it, we are it, which means we're giving it to ourselves automatically. We are, in it, which is part of the fun journey of this. And of course, then we serve from an overflow, which we've talked about in this book, Inspired Living, a lot. Is we all came to the point where we're nourished ourselves enough that giving was easy and we could give from the overflow and not our reserves. Thank you so much, Joy.
Yes. And I could say one more quick thing is I even was brave. My bravery came to ask for an extension. I can't meet this deadline. Could I please have a couple more days? And that took something in me to be able to do that and not to just turn in something that wasn't complete.
Oh my gosh. And so many people moved, and not just in this project, but in so many of our projects, people have been in complete upheaval of life, in moves and lots of different ways. You guys know, yourselves, the people around you, all of the different things going on in these last couple of years have been quite amazing. So I've got to hand it to all of you for saying yes in the middle of your own, the things that are going on in your own lives. Renee, you are next up. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
Well, I'm Renee Moritz. I'm in Southern California, and I wrote chapter 9. It's called Golden Earth Energy Meditation, Making Sure Grief Doesn't Make You Sick. And I began my story by telling the fact that my mother died when I was a child, and I was 8 years old, and my parents sort of jumbled the healing process. Well, my mother passed, so it was my stepmother and my father. We weren't allowed to really bring up the fact that we had another mother. She wanted to be number one. Anytime we did or asked questions, cabinet doors would start slamming. So we just learned early on not to mention anything. And I'm nervous, sorry. But as I got older, I started to understand my parents, and I learned that they got bumped around as children too. They didn't have perfect childhoods. I had a little grace for the way they acted. But that didn't stop me from really going down years of a path of darkness and self-destruction. And it was just kind of horrible growing up in that sort of environment. And during that time, we always had animals, and animals were my only friends because I was secluded to my bedroom. I had no friends. I was allowed to go to school, but then that was my only source of communication with other people. So I didn't always do what I was supposed to in school. And then as time went on, I'm now in my 30s. And I got married. And you can sort of see, if you looked at a timeline, you can see where the universe began to intervene and kind of awaken me. And I started to have dreams, and I understood that I just might be more than I thought I was. And then I had a dog that she was diagnosed with a disease, and she was going to die in a couple of days. So that brought me back to the loss of my mother. And I'd started to seek an animal communicator after she had passed, because I wanted to know if she was okay. I had to believe there was more. And I wanted to repay the animals for the kindness that they had showed me in my childhood. So I just really dove into that. And then I started to work with animals, and it seemed like the animal kingdom really showed up for me during this time. I started to get messages that I didn't quite understand when animals were sick. And so that led to medical intuition. And actually my first animal client passed away, and I really wasn't prepared for that, because I just thought, this is a happy place, people don't die. If you can communicate things, life, just everyone lives happily ever after. But then you just really learn that's not the case, and people weren't really receptive to just what's going on the inside. They get real defensive, not defensive, but there's a lot of fear that people have that they just might be doing something wrong, or they might have their own issues that are unresolved. And I'm nervous.
You're great is what you are. I'll pause you there and help your nerves a little bit by saying that this book is interesting, you guys. There are many animal connection chapters in this book. So Renee's is obviously one of them. And I love the idea of the creatures around us being part of this journey and really tapping into the connection and just the gratitude I have for my own. I have 2 dogs. But what else do you want to say about that, Renee?
I really got into shamanism after I got into shamanism, and that again is working with animals. So that led to soul retrieval, and I like to help people and animals heal on a soul level. And then I added medical or energy energy medicine to the mix. And I think that is also really important, because you can't just heal, you can't just find out what's going on. You have to find the root cause. Most illness, or all illness, starts energetically in the body. So if you're able to kind of clear the path for health and wellness, then everybody thrives.
Yeah, thank you. And that's an important piece, really, for our listeners to kind of pause on, that when you're going to doctors and therapists and resources who are not getting to the root, you're going to end up having to go to 10 doctors, because you're not going to get to that place where it's really taking care of what is happening. We talked in the last interview about integrating, and the idea of mind, body, soul integrating, and all the beautiful practices and tools you all are offering in the book really help people do that and get to more of the root causes of what's going on. I think that's such a gift. It's so important. Dawn, how about you? You're up next. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
Thank you. Mine is chapter 18, A Mother's Heart, Embodying Your Inner Nurturer. And this was the first time I've done some writing. But this was the first time that I've really written my story. And it's my raw story, to be honest. And there was lots of awakenings in sharing this story. And I did a lot of writing. So I grew up in your typical alcoholic, abusive, toxic home. And, to get me through that, I did find myself writing a lot. I wrote every day, journaling about the drama, the trauma, and I was even writing poems, and I just was always writing. And for me, writing was a release, but it was also a feeding, right? You're letting things out, but it's also a healing of sorts. So that kind of carried me through. And growing up, ended up going to high school, and that's where I met and married my high school sweetheart. And we had 2 children, and growing up, I was more religious. I was always a spiritual, religious person, but my religion mainly dominated. I went to Catholic school, and just to kind of give you an idea, I went to church every single morning before I went to school. And I that continued, and I just went down the whole religious path. And we had 2 kids, and I taught their CCD classes and First Communion, First Confession. And it was in that teaching that I kind of had a big aha, in the way of I felt like there was more. I felt like there was more to be taught, more to be teaching, not only these kids, my kids, these other people's kids, but myself. And so I just went down that journey. It just kind of opened the floodgates for me. And I just started going down all kinds of paths. I became a Reiki master teacher. I started studying, meditation, crystals, color. I became an ordained minister and married my daughter and my sister, and just went down this whole spiritual path. And it really opened me up to all of these wonderful things. And just so many ahas along the way, which then brought me to I became an angelic life coach as well, and that really opened up my intuition. And so I just started going deeper and deeper with that, and went into mediumship and do that, animal communication, do that, and it just like one thing opened up the next, opened up the next, opened up the next, and like I said, just the floodgates just opened, and now allows me to use my gifts, my intuitive gifts, to have sessions with people, to sit with them and connect with their truths, their soul journeys, and help them on their paths. So it's been a wild, amazing, beautiful spiritual journey. And my husband has been my biggest supporter. Growing up in this toxic home, there wasn't a lot of unconditional love. And I will say, from the moment that my husband and I started dating when we were 16 until now, it's unconditional love and support from him. So it's been an amazing journey.
Sounds like an amazing journey. One thing you're making me think about is just from going from a very intense religious practice to the kinds of things you're talking about now. You don't just jump from one to the other. I mean, so you're telling us about this journey that got you there, but there were moments, and this is for all of you, really, you had to be open enough. Your mind had to be open enough. You had to be accepting enough of this beautiful question I love to ask: what else is possible? And so it sounds like, Dawn, that you just got there, but do you remember a moment where there was a switch that flipped?
In the way of, well, it was in the classroom of teaching these kids at CCD, and I felt like I was outgrowing my religion, we'll say. And my religion is I still feel religious, but I feel like my spirituality has moved even higher, and that's kind of taken over. I feel like my new religion is my spirituality, if that makes sense. Like I live my spirituality.
Yeah, definitely. And so again, this is such a great question for everybody. When you felt the moment of outgrowing it, what is happening inside of you? I would guess a lot of you are questioning. And I think questioning is one of the biggest things on the path of healing, is when you begin to question everything. So I love hearing you all talk about all this stuff. All right, Terry, we need to hear about your chapter.
Hey, I'm Terry Hawk. My chapter is number 20. Excuse me. The title is Seeking Solace, Finding Healing and Joy in Nature. Water's a good thing. That's very early here. So when I reached out to Carolyn, I had this whole idea about what my chapter would be, and it completely got blown out of the water when my son died a month after I retired earlier this year. It expanded the chapter though. So when I was young, I also grew up in one of those dysfunctional, toxic households with the misogynistic, narcissistic dad and the anxiety-ridden mom. And I also had a developmentally disabled brother. So I became a pretty crazy teenager. Went to the dark side, got pregnant at 16. So I basically grew up with my son. But the constant throughout my life, even into when I was very young, was nature and the natural world. I grew up on an acre with forests and marsh and a stream and stuff. And I spent all my time out there when I was a child, because emotions weren't allowed in my family. So I hung out in the woods and the wetlands. And I think, my story is bigger than this chapter too. I mean, there's a whole book in it. Oh yeah, I wanted to point out my mug says inspire. A friend gave that to me. That was sort of my impetus to, when I saw the title of this, to get involved. But anyway, back to the growing up. So somewhere in my 20s, I was with a counselor and talking to him, and he pointed out, well, you find your healing in nature. You've been doing it since you were a little girl. And I thought, oh. So regardless of all the insanity throughout my life, that was a constant. I always found healing and joy in nature. And of course, now I'm thrown into this traumatic grief that I'm still working with, trying to figure out what exactly am I going to do with the rest of my life? Because I knew at some point I figured out I was a healer just based on people's response to who I am throughout all this whole journey, things like a mug. And when I tell them little stories from my life, they're like, wow, you should write about that. That's really inspirational, right? It's pretty exciting when they do that too, because you're just like, well, that was just another chapter in my life. And I just kept going. How did you do that? I don't really know. When you write a chapter like this, though, and you start putting those pieces together, and in the end, I left out a whole bunch of little pieces, actually. You see that in, was it Dawn? I think maybe it was some of the other interviews too, where people talked about writing. And I realized I wrote when I was a little kid too. I just was like, wait, I have some poems somewhere that I wrote. I've always been a writer. In my job, it was technical writing, but I took a lot of creative writing classes, which really helped. And that is part of what I want to do now, is I want to be a published author. Woohoo, here we go, number one, right? And this is just the beginning. But first, I need to rest and I need to heal as much as possible and learn to carry this loss with me, because it doesn't go away. It's there forever now. But there's finding sort of a way. It's not even a way through it. You just figure out a way to hold it, right, and carry it, and be able to find joy. And I want to help others find that too, because this is a profound thing to happen to someone. I mean, I know when I retired, I was going to do something to help others. And now it's like, well, there's a lot of people. I mean, I sit in traffic, at a traffic light, and I'm like, how many of the people in these cars all around me, because where I live here in the Pacific Northwest, you're always stuck at a traffic light with a lot of cars. How many other people are trying to find their way through some huge traumatic loss? Probably a lot of them. And how are they finding their way? Because there's, like Renee was saying, grief often isn't allowed in families, whether it's your animal or someone you love. I mean, I've lost a lot of companion animals. I lost someone I love very much to suicide. I feel like I'm becoming this grief expert. The universe is kind of dragging me into it. So that's sort of what inspired my chapter.
Universe has a way of doing that sometimes. I just quickly show you guys that mine says love on it.
That's awesome.
Okay. The tiny little word there. All right, let's keep talking about this book, Inspired Living, right? Even right in the main title of this. Renee, I'm going to start with you for this one. What's one way, I know you guys have many, what's one way you live an inspired life? What does that even mean to you? And let me get you to unmute, girl. Before you tell us something brilliant that we don't hear. Oh my goodness. All right.
And I'd like to announce that I'm back inside my body and I no longer have amnesia for who I was.
Okay, excellent. We'll all go there with you. Take a breath.
I love running energy, and I feel like I get in touch with my higher self when I do that, and more of who my soul intended to be is able to come inside my body. I feel like I can grow. I get in touch with myself. There's a feeling that some people have that they are unworthy of anything more. But what they don't realize is there's a long lineage of mothers and fathers that all came together to put us here. And then with all our past lives, all the karmic debt that we have paid already, and we set up those opportunities for this lifetime. And we need to just step into that. And I feel like just being in touch with our higher self helps us do that.
Yeah, no doubt. Simple foundational thing, right? To living in an inspired life. I love that, Renee. Thank you. Dawn, what would be yours?
I would say that to feel what feeds me, and that could change, day to day, year to year, what feeds me, and do that. And as I'm inspired by what I'm doing, by feeding myself, whether it be take a class or, go deeper down the spiritual path, wherever I'm guided, like I said, it could change. But whatever feeds me, feeds my soul, my heart, do that. That inspires me, which then allows me to be an inspiration to my kids, my husband, my clients, whoever.
Yes, definitely. My version of the word is just when I'm in joy during the day, that's everything. And then I can be inspired all over the place with everyone that I meet from there. I love it. Terry, how about you? What is one way you live your inspired life?
I think it's it's seeking. I'm always looking, not for the answers, but kind of looking for the answers. I'm not afraid to talk about my life. And what I learned and the mistakes I made. And I think that's what helps inspire others. And how do I say that? I have an open mind, right? I'm a skeptic with an open mind. So I've gone to all these classes to expand my spirituality and my beliefs and understanding of life and people and my compassion and kindness. So I'm just always looking and sharing with others. And clearly, I've been given the gift of being told that I'm an inspiration to people. I think that's a gift. I never take that for granted either. So yeah, I think that's.
I love it. And my friend talks about being a seeker in terms of, she stays in wonder. Yeah. And I stay in the wonder and awe of everything, always curious, right? Beginner's mind. In the martial arts journey, when you earn your black belt, you figure out what you don't know, not what you know.
Perfect.
And so we don't master anything. We just get to the point where we can be curious about what we don't know. Awesome, Terry. Joy, how about you? What's one way you live your inspired life?
Thank you. One way is just I receive such amazing ideas. I am one with everything, as we all are, but we might not believe it or feel it, but I am. And I'll just be going along and I'll be like, Michael, what would it be like if we drove your mother to Sumter, South Carolina to visit her brother? I just received these amazing ideas because they're both in their 80s. She doesn't drive anymore. So she is so excited. We're taking her Monday and Tuesday to visit her her brother, who's actually younger than her. But I think I just live into everything that comes to me.
Yeah, you're listening. And that's part of, being connected like that, hearing those messages, a lot of people use the word downloads, inspired messages, voices, all of the things. You're listening. Renee was saying, I'm back in my body. That's where I hear them. So I hear them through those sensations. I have to be there to hear all of that. I love that you're talking about that, Joy. Okay, so kind of sticking with this beautiful title of the book, I want to talk about superpowers next. Dawn, I'm going to start with you on this one. I think sometimes what we least expect, or maybe what we don't see in ourselves at first, becomes the superpower later in life. At least that's how I think of this sometimes. What do you think about when it comes to one of your own superpowers and about that journey that you've taken?
It's so funny that you put it that way, because I feel like my superpower is nurturing, and I wasn't nurtured as a child. I was the oldest, and I took care of and I nurtured my brothers and sisters. And there was, you just growing up, and you acquire, family and pets, and they all need nurturing, and it just comes naturally to me. I'm always like on call. Who needs nurturing right now?
Yeah, and it came from that place of not getting it when you were young, which is part of that. Like, I think sometimes we turn our biggest pains into our purpose. If, I love to be able to tell our listeners that little nugget, like, what if what you're in the middle of and feels like your biggest pain ends up being your superpower? ? Big ass question of life, right? Like, I just love the big questions. I love how they change up my idea of what was happening even a second before that.
And it's crazy because now I just like to say, how you start, don't let it affect how you finish. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
And it's so true.
It is. That's awesome. All right. So Terry, what about this question for you? What do you think about when it comes to this journey of recognizing a superpower? So, some authors have said that the word jumbles them up a little bit, that they don't resonate with the word superpower. But I love hearing all of your ideas on this. What's yours, Terry?
I do like what Dawn said, though, about don't let the who you are
how
now.
You started.
Yeah, how you started.
How you finish.
Because a lot of people go, how did you get here? You started like that. And one of I've got a lot. We all have superpowers, really. Intuition and curiosity, I would go with the primary two. And I don't know that I really understood it when I was a kid, that intuition, empathy. I understood the curiosity part. And as I got older, it got stronger and stronger, but I didn't always listen to that little voice inside, that intuition, until later. And then when I got my butt kicked in a narcissistic marriage that I got out of, I always listen to my intuition. I always act on it in an appropriate manner these days. But I would say that is a big superpower. And I blow people away sometimes. They think I'm being judgmental, but I can see people, I can feel people. That intuition, I can tell who that person is, right? And 99.9% of the time, that intuition, when I allow it and open up to it, it's quite accurate. I have left a camping site all set up and all of a sudden went, uh-oh, something's wrong. I need to leave. Okay. And I packed everything up and me and my little dog drove for 2 hours to in the dark, to find a new place to camp. I don't know why. The intuition came through though, and it was time to move on. And I don't question it anymore, but that started a long time ago.
I think you're talking about another level of this. Intuition is probably one of the biggest superpowers I feel I have for my life. Didn't get that honed in till well into my adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
So you have me thinking about so many different things here. One is the gift of talking about this to my daughter at her age.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my gosh, I wished I would have had someone talking to me about like what that was, back then. It would have been a whole different life. But the other is the mastery of intuition. You get to the point where you trust it and you don't need a reason. You just do because you trust it that much. And you may never know, like if you take the exit on the Beltway instead of going on the Beltway because you heard the message, you may never know why. But
right.
Still you're like good with it because it's that knowing. And this gets me excited because it's been my GPS system for a life that now feels like I better be careful what I wish for because I am a master manifester. Right? Yeah. So it's fun, you guys. It's scary and fun. Like it's both things sometimes. Joy, how about you? What does this make you think of in terms of your superpower?
The first thing that came up for me is that I grew up with such a sense of not belonging in the family. I even had this older sister who sassed a litany at me about how they got the wrong baby back. And I've written about that in the other books. I was given on a silver tray, you do not belong. So my superpower is that I belong everywhere and anywhere and everywhere. And I can just go anywhere. I'm beyond self-consciousness or do I really belong here? And like what just came in me was this gathering I went to on the solstice on Sunday. And I didn't get invited by the hostess to attend it. I got invited by someone else. And I went up to the hostess and I said, this is so wonderful. I'm grateful to be here. And she said, the reason I didn't invite you is because I thought you wouldn't like walking the labyrinth. And, I'm going to write back to her and just say, instead of not inviting people and getting in their heads, we can just include and let people decide. I would have decided not to go or to go, or what I don't want to take too much time.
I do get what you're saying. I think that that was a weird comment for her to make. We can just leave that up to the person or the universe or to a higher vibration to sort itself out, right? The minute we make assumptions, here's the real thing. The minute we make assumptions about people and what they will like or don't like, then that's the problem. So yeah. And Joy, I love how you be in the world. You leave yourself wide open for the magic. And I think that's been part of my journey too, which I so appreciate about you. So Renee, it's hard to go last on these questions, I know, but you have your unique journey with your superpower. Tell us about it.
Joy, I absolutely resonated with what you said. I just knew the stork dropped me off at the wrong family. um, I think it's a combination of a couple of things. Self-love is at the top of the list, and to trust and honor my intuition, and just, I don't say yes right away to things. I give myself time to kind of, yeah, everybody's nodding. We all know, don't say yes right away. And then to be present in every moment and be authentic and appreciate, like when things are good, just appreciate that moment. And when things go bad, you have that to really think back on.
Yeah, I love that too. All of these things are such amazing superpowers, you guys. And it's not, I think people think it needs to be this big, loud, wild, crazy amazingness. And really it's simple, foundational, awareness-based practices that can change your whole life, that become the superpower. Our ability to make those practices into a discipline and walk the walk every single day, no matter what's happening, right? That's a superpower too. Okay, ladies, I've got one more question for you, and we'll do a little bit more of the speed dating version of this one. Okay, so your answers, give me a sentence or two, like sum it up for the listeners today. So we author experts, healers, we like to talk about ourselves as guides and facilitators, because we don't fix people. We empower them to connect to their own inner healer, right? So Terry, you're up first on this one. What's the message you have for our listeners today to help them feel empowered? What do you want them to know?
A couple of things. One, I was in adulthood when I finally realized that even though I didn't belong in that family, I did. And I recognized, if not for my parents and their dysfunctions, who would I be now? Which I was very thankful for, right? So that's part of it. My bigger message, though, is to it's staying real with yourself and with people around you. Don't try not to put on those masks and be fake. And I had someone when I was in, I think my late 20s, say that to me, give me a big hug. Stay real. We keep singing your song. And it took me a while to really get that. And I realized, looking at other people around me, yeah, that's important. And to be in those moments, right? Part of being real is not trying to push away this horrible pain that I feel right now, right? It's being present, being real about it, and being honest.
Yeah, stay real, everyone. That is for sure. Love it, Terry. Thank you.
Thank
Joy,
you.
how about you? What's your message of empowerment today?
Honoring yourself. If that is, I have stopped rushing. To empower yourself, you need to spend time with yourself. So is that 10 minutes in the morning that you can breathe to your understanding of your higher power? Empower yourself with being with yourself and your God, I would say.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. It's this, it's being real. It's the same message in a said in slightly different way, which is something I love. And, I just don't want to forget to say thank you to all of you today for not just saying yes to the project, but for like stepping up and saying, yeah, I'm going to trailblaze sharing a real, raw, vulnerable story about myself. I'm going to go first. I'm going to show you my heart on my sleeve. Right. And when we're true to ourselves inside of those stories, I mean, that's you giving our readers permission to be themselves, which is so beautiful. So thank you all for doing that so brilliantly. But these books then step forward and share your master teachings, which is, bonus times 1,000, because we have these beautiful books, which are toolkits for all of the unique voices and then all of the different ideas. Because what I think I want you all to know, our readers, our listeners, is I don't care how many things you've tried, have hope. There is something that will help you. And don't give up is the big message from me today. Renee, how about you? What's your message of empowerment today?
For all the authors that participated in the book and anybody watching this video, we're a small percentage of people that have the opportunity to achieve this much growth in such a small period of time. So take advantage of the opportunity and develop your own superpower.
Yeah, nice one. I love it. Love it. I love it. All right, Dawn, you're going to close us out today, girl. Tell us your message of empowerment.
Follow your soul's path, follow your soul's journey, wherever that leads you. And it can change. Don't think because you were an artist when you were young that you need to be an artist your whole life. If that's what your soul calling is, it is. And to lots of our points here is, take the mask off, be yourself, because that's what the world needs. It doesn't need a dimmed down you, a to you, it needs a 10 you, whatever that looks like. Be you authentically.
Thank you.
You're doing everybody a favor.
I love the reminder that we can change our mind along the journey. Like, it's okay. What feels soul aligned in your 20s may not in your 40s or your 50s. And it's okay to change your mind and turn down a different path. And I go by the feeling of joy inside me. And something may not give me that feeling that I have been doing for 20 years or 30 years anymore. And that's scary, isn't it? Sometimes. Yeah. Because we develop our identity based around what we have spent so long doing. But one of the best things I've ever done was stick to the feeling and go ahead and change my mind. Can I
just tag quickly onto that too? It's taken me, it's a lifetime process, right? My mom never figured it out, nor did my dad, right? They never became wise people or elders or anything and died in their 80s and 90s. I'm still figuring it out in my 50s, my mid 50s, I'm in my 60s. I'm still learning and it's awesome, right? You can still change what you're doing. You can still make a huge difference and find new superpowers and be open to them. So,
yeah.
Thank you.
You can do it till the end. You can just keep doing it. I love it. Authors, to all of you, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everyone. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, to all of our listeners, remember that, if something that one of these women said today is like giving you the goosebumps, maybe it's sparking an idea or a question, well, drop on down to the show notes because I have everybody hooked up down there with their websites. Take an exploration click today and see all of the awesomeness they're up to, because it's a lot and they're very generously there for you to answer those questions and give you support and help you with that next step, right? So please do that. And you're all invited to our live stream book launch party on July 15th. It's at 10 a.m. We're going to gather, and that's Eastern. We're going to gather with all of the inspired living authors on the Brave Healer Productions Facebook page. I've got that hooked up down below for you too. If you happen to be listening after that July 15th date, well, that means the book is ready on Amazon and you should go hop over there and grab your copy today. And lastly, everybody, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it's time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.